Ian Rappaport dropped a little bit of a surprising bombshell on the Falcons faithful yesterday as he announced Eddie Goldman would be reuniting with the Falcons. Now, the way that he put it, he sounded like that Eddie Goldman had played for the Falcons, when in fact he's not. He spent 5 years in Chicago, had a pretty good tenure, run stuffer, true nose tackle, something that this Falcons defense actually needs since they're switching to a 3-4. The Falcons sign him. You're excited about it. He retires less than 2 weeks later. And then he comes back in 2023 and then retires again. And now he's back in 2024. So we'll see if he's actually going to stick with the team this time. It would be a good addition. I mean, we've talked about this defensive line. Now, obviously, the interior is in a lot better shape. But, in a 3-4, you can have Grady Jarrett and David Onyemata play a little bit different positions if he's sitting in the middle. But it's kind of funny because is he going to stick around this time? Is he going to play?
I don't know what's going on. I mean, this is 2 regimes now that he's been through. Came over with Arthur Smith. 3 defensive coordinators now, because when he first came, it was Dean Pease. And then it was supposed to be Ryan Nielsen. And now it's Jimmy Lake. And all 3 run different defenses, and it wasn't as big of a need last year with Ryan Nielsen, like Chase mentioned. But this defense that we expect them to run, you do have a need for that traditional nose tackle to just kind of take up the center. Hopefully those double teams from the guards to kind of free up David Onyemata and Grady Jarrett. It was a need. We certainly expected it. Maybe somebody who doesn't have 3 years worth of rust would have been a little bit better of an acquisition. But that's not to say he hasn't stayed in shape. I mean, I know plenty of guys. We have friends who are out of the league. They train every day, so that could certainly be the case. But it is a weird acquisition because earlier in the day, I don't know if this was just a transactional wire thing that had to happen, but they waived him. They waived him earlier in the day from the retired, exempt list, and then signed him right back. I don't know if they had to do that to sign him back or what, but this entire Eddie Goldman saga is very weird. But it was always expected, this kind of move.
Yeah, I mean, 3 years of rust, though, that's the big thing here, right? Like, the guy has not played since, 2021, and then he also skipped, I believe, 2020 because of the COVID year. So 3 out of the last 4 seasons, he's been on the pine. Now, in the NFL, sometimes maybe that gives you a little more juice. You're healthy, you haven't played, you haven't been banged up, you have an entire offseason of working. I don't think his spot on the roster is guaranteed. I definitely don't think it's guaranteed, but if it works out, it works out. Because, listen, this guy when he was with the Bears, he was a stud. I mean, we're talking about, 90-plus Pro Football Focus grades. He was an all-rookie. He had some big years. Now, he's not a huge sack guy, but he can push the pocket and pressure the quarterback from the middle. But he is your prototypical nose tackle that can stop the run. So he's had a lot of good success in the NFL. And if it works out, it works out. You kind of, it is weird because of all the retiring, but there's clearly some sort of love affair here between Terry Fontenot and Eddie Goldman, because that's the one guy that's remained consistent throughout all of this has been Terry Fontenot. So clearly he wants him on this team, and hopefully it works out.
Terry Fontenot's letting Ryan Pace get in on the action. Ryan Pace, former GM, he's former Bears GM, who was a part of bringing Cordero Patterson over, as well as Eddie Goldman. Obviously, Ryan Pace is telling him, just give him a chance, give him a chance. Traditional nose tackles are never going to have gaudy sack numbers because that's not necessarily their job. Also, they're just, 300-plus pound men, and the only way for them to get sacks is either, push the pocket, or when a quarterback steps up in the pocket, you get one of your big bare arms on them. But it's also one of those positions where, a random undrafted free agent could come into training camp and surprise everybody because, again, it's not like it's a quarterback where you're required to do a bunch. Can you hold 2 guys without giving too much ground? It's basic. It's the most manly job in the NFL. So, like you said, Eddie Goldman's spot is certainly up for grabs, but he is the only traditional nose tackle I see.
It's definitely a thankless job. Definitely, you're not going to rack up sacks, but he was racking up, 40 combined tackles, which for a nose tackle is really good when he was in Chicago. So it would be great if it worked out. The Falcons, as we talked about, definitely need help on the defensive line. Coming up after the break, Caitlin Clark and LSU broke viewership